Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all an update to my Dragonic Overlord Cardfight Vanguard Overdress deck profile for post-Advance of the Intertwined Stars. This is the D-format Dragonic Overlord deck, one of the decks that was released in Set 2 for this format, giving us support in the form of Dragon Empire, but also the Kagero cards for these sets. We have announced for Set 5 new support in the form of Dragonic Overlord the End, and I'm sure a bunch of other cards as well. So definitely excited for that support, but I wanted to do an update with the release of Set 3 being the most recent set. So plenty of good support in that set to help further support the Dragon Empire Dragonic Overlord deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck remains unchanged from the release of Set 2. We're running Lizard Runner Undo as our go-to starter just when rode upon. If you went second, draw a card. Our grade 1 is Embodiment of Armor Bar. When on Vanguard, when this unit is rode upon by Dragon Knight Nahal, you can counterblast 1, search your deck for up to 1 grade 1 card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So being able to search out the perfect card is very, very strong with this, or any of the grade 1s that you run in this deck. So you can run some pretty low numbers for big ratios, knowing you can just search out whatever you need using Bar as your ride target, with the grade 2 being Dragon Knight Nahal. When it's rode upon by a card with Overlord and its card name, call this card to rear guard, just giving you resources on the rear guard, which very, very useful, because then we also run multiples of other Nahals and Bars in the deck to further support the power up of Dragonic Overlord, which is our go-to grade 3 in the deck. Dragonic Overlord being the main go-to Vanguard ride target during the battle when it attacks a rear guard, and also your opponent cannot call cards from their hand to the guard circle, meaning that more than likely this attack will hit, which will then trigger the next effect of Dragonic Overlord, which also for the main deck we're running 3 additional copies. With this card on Vanguard Circle once per turn, when this unit attack hits, counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand. Stand this unit, it gets drive -1 until end of turn. So you have the twin drive to make use of, but what's extra scary is that you can still attack and reveal Dragveda, standing your Dragonic Overlord. So even if the attack hit, you can still restand it using Dragveda, attack into your opponent once more, and if that attack with the added power of 100 million hits against your opponent, you can then use Dragonic Overlord, because all it has to do is its attack has to hit. It doesn't have to hit a rear guard. So the first attack may have hit a rear guard, but then you can use the restand to then swing into your opponent, and then hopefully if that does hit, you'll get another restand with a drive -1, but that's after you've already restood once already. And then the only other grade 3 that I run in the deck, these numbers will definitely change with my belief that Dragonic Overlord the End for Set 5 will be a grade 4, so we'll probably take out the Penetrate Dragon Trabosh, which does provide some soul power in the deck and the additional critical for pressure when Dragonic Overlord is to attack into your opponent's Vanguard with the restand afterwards. I just run 2 though, I feel it's all you need. There are some pretty specific spots in this deck for other important cards, so I find that 2 is the best number to run as just an extra additional support card. And I also run, now moving on to the grade 2s, 3 additional Dragon Knight Nahal. With this card on Rearguard Circle, once per turn, if you have a Vanguard with Overlord and its card name, Soul Blast 1, and this unit and all of your Vanguards get plus 5,000 till end of turn. So being able to just to power up your Dragonic Overlord, if you did not Persona Ride this turn, you may need additional power. Plus, and Dragonic Knight Nahal can also have the +5 that it gains, meaning it can also hit into your opponent's Vanguard or any of the other rearguards on the field, with your opponent having to guard a little extra to stop those attacks. The other grade 2s that we run, still running the 4 of the Berserk Dragon. It's a really, really good card. When this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard with Overlord and its card name, it gets plus 5,000 until end of that battle. Then counterblast 1 and choose one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rear guards and retire it. So even if you don't retire anything, it still has a +5 when it attacks with the option of if your Vanguard is Overlord in its name. So with it, you just have pressure and then the potential retire of one of your opponent's grade 2 or less, so you can hit an interceptor or anything annoying your opponent may have in their back row. With the last of the grade 2s that we run in the deck, being the newest addition from set 3, which is Steel Bullet of Dust Storm Ethan. On rearguard circle, when your Vanguard's attack hits, retire this unit, draw a card, and then countercharge 1. The countercharge 1 is very, very important because you can easily go through counterblasts very, very quickly in this deck. So being able to rely on Ethan just to recover some of those resources, while also not necessarily having to be put in the front row for an attack. It is a 9k grade 2. So with it, you can normally put it, in the back row, knowing your Vanguard's attack is going to hit at least the rear guard. Being able to then just to retire Ethan, hopefully giving you a little more power. If you do have to boost an attack with it, it can also just be a card that will be avoid being, let's say, placed into the prison by your opponent, retired by your opponent's own cards, you name it. It's just a resource on the field to then also give you the potential countercharge that you may need for your Dragonic Overlord to hit. And then that's it for the grade 2s. Moving on to the grade 1s. I've lowered the ratios for a lot of the grade 1s just for the fact that Bar can search out with the ride deck. Any specific ones, you may open up with one and need the other one, but I'm still running 3 Bar with this card. On rear guard, once per turn, when your Vanguard's attack hits, this unit gets plus 5,000 power until end of turn. So you can even just attack with Bar alone for 13,000 power, which is enough unless your opponent gets power to swing against your opponent's Vanguard. But most of the time, it just provides a very, very good boost, being also to the fact they can boost Dragonic Overlord if you provide the additional boost of this. And Dragonic Overlord, it's a total of 26,000 power total. Very, very scary for that pressure altogether, meaning your opponent will have to throw down a couple grade 0s to at least block the next restand attack. And I also run 3 Dragon Monk Gojo with this card on rear guard. When this unit attacks, this unit boosted hits the Vanguard. You can retire this unit and countercharge 1. So just like your option with Ethan, it's a countercharge card, and it's a searchable one at that with your Bar. And having the option of when the Vanguard's attack hits, this unit boosted hits, you have the option on the rear guard to then boost, providing that countercharge for once again giving you a resource for Dragonic Overlord to then have a available counterblast to restand. For some of the other cards, I also run 3 Tencha Stead. If you don't open up with your Dragonic Overlord in your opening hand, for the Persona ride, you can at least rely on Tencha Stead when you ride into your initial ride deck one, and then call out Tencha Stead so you can then have the retire option to search out the other grade 3, because the Persona ride definitely does provide a lot of power in the deck, enough pressure for your rear guards to hit your opponent's Vanguard, and for then Dragonic Overlord to hit as well. With the last of the grade 1s being in the deck, just 2 Stealth Dragon, Fushimachi, Madoka. On rear guard or guard circle, if your opponent's drop zone has 4 or more cards, it gets plus 2,000 power and plus 5 shield. Then if it has 8 or more cards, it also gets plus 5,000 shield. So great for a 10k boost on the rear guard circle, but I would say even better being just a 15k guard grade 1 that you can rely on, whether it be a discard cost for the Sentinel if your opponent doesn't have enough cards in their drop zone. It's useful, and a 2 of because we can search that with Bar depending on what else we have in our hand, but most of the time the grade 1 spot is taken up by the search for our twin buckler dragon, just having the generic guard option. With this card, being able to place it on the guard circle, and then if we have only 1 card in hand and that other card is a sentinel, being able then to get guard 1 more attack our opponent may have, especially if they get an over trigger and they give all power to their rear guard to swing, we can then block both attacks, and this will only really come up if they get a critical trigger as well, or if we're at 5 damage. And that's it for the grade 1s. Moving on now to the grade 0s. We're running 4 of the newest critical from set 3, which is Burning Flail Dragon. At the end of the battle, this unit boosted, put it into the soul, choose one of your units, it gets plus 2,000 to end of turn. So the soul buildup, very, very useful with Nahalem, because Nahalem is just a once per turn soul blast to boost both it and Dragonic Overlord. And also the plus 2,000 can help with some rear guards to gain a little more power. Like let's say after the end of the battle, this unit boosted, you can put it into the soul and provide a little more extra power for your Ethan to hit on rear guard against your opponent, whether it be one of their rear guards or even if it just needs a little bit more strength against the Vanguard. I also run 3 additional criticals. I'm running 7 crits just for that added pressure with Dragonic Overlord's restand to go through triggers pretty quickly. And with cards like Ethan just being able to retire, clearing up our front row if he is placed in the front. I don't run front triggers. I run the 4 draws. Hand consistency can definitely be a problem with this deck. That's why I prefer the draw spot in this deck to use, with the last spots being the 4 of the heal trigger. I like the White Light Dragon Parasolus just as a more fitting card, I would say, with the Dragon Dancers being for Overdress, and then this card being more for the actual, Dragon Overlord Kagero kind of card. I know it's more like a Tachikaze looking card, but still, for that group it's in. And then lastly, the over trigger is Drag Veda, just the restand power. I've said alone, being able to restand your Vanguard twice in one turn is quite scary for your opponent. And not only that, having a Dragonic Overlord with 100 million power for that pressure. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll definitely be working on Phantom Blaster Dragon as probably the next update. For set 3, we did get a couple of specific cards. I know Ethan wasn't specifically named to support Dragonic Overlord, but definitely does help with the deck. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.